Hello Internet, and welcome back to my Discuss Plays Monday, and I'm here to talk to you about something that I feel very strongly about. Now, you may already read the title, so you know what I'm about to say, and I do believe in my heart of hearts that the N64 is overrated. Now, before you shut this video down, let me just explain to you why I think this is, and why I believe the N64 is one of the most overrated consoles of all time. Now, I'm not a hater at all. I owned an N64 as a child. Playing Super Mario 64 for the first time, just like everybody else, was my first foray into 3D gaming. And man, did they kill that game. Did they nail it. It was awesome. It was fun. It was everything you imagined video games could be up to that point. And I got to give them credit where credit is due, is that was one of the first games to really show us what it can be and where this industry is going now. So I got to thank them for that. But the console as a whole, we can't base it on just a few games here or there. And that's why I'm about to give reasons why I believe the N64 is a bit overrated over time. One, I think nostalgia is its best friend for sure. I know friends who are like, I loved that system. And I was, as a kid, I had that system. And I was like, well, I liked the system. I played my WWE games on there. I played like I said, Super Mario 64. I played Smash Bros on there. But other than that, I got to give a shout out to GoldenEye, of course, with the multiplayer. But other than that, I had the system, and we had very few games for it, and that's another thing we'll get into soon. We had the system, me and my brother, but we decided to sell it for our PS1, and man, was that one of the best decisions we've ever made. Similarly, I know what it's like to think a system is great over time. Sega Genesis was the console I owned. I didn't own an SNES or a NES, but looking back now, I can clearly see that they were very much more superior to their Sega counterparts. So it's not that I'm trying to be a hater, but I think the N64 started Nintendo decline as industry leader. If we discount the Wii, which of course sold a shit ton, we discount that because, of course, nobody bought software. And if nobody's buying software on your console, then you're not making money anyways. While they did have a lot of money off the Wii, they could have made more if people bought the software. But, of course, Nintendo didn't support it. So after the N64 released, it was killed by PS1 3-1 in sales. Now, sales doesn't mean everything, but it does count for something when it comes to making your next console. They need to know that they can count on you to sell these units. Otherwise, they're not going to want to make games for it. So the Gamecube suffered because of this. The Wii U is suffering because of this. Everything is suffering. And it started all with the Nintendo 64 not selling a lot. And there's reasons it didn't sell a lot. Nintendo went with cartridges over CDs. Instead of there being their innovative self, they stuck with what they knew. It was unusual for Nintendo. But they wanted to control everything like they did. Nintendo was always like that during the SNES. They wanted control of what they were doing, of how many cartridges they were selling. They made developers pay for the number of cartridges that they wanted to sell. So some of these developers didn't know how well their game would do. So they would order maybe 1 million cartridges. Maybe their game only sold 500,000 cartridges. So that means they were screwed. And a lot of developers went out of business, frankly, because of Nintendo being assholes in their policies, and they wanted to keep it. They wanted to keep doing what they knew. Of course, the technology was fast, but it caused a rift between great developers like Square Enix, who was developing Final Fantasy VII, but they couldn't do their vision on their system because it was too small. The cartridges couldn't hold the amount of story they wanted to tell, so of course they jumped ship with the PS1, and the rest is history. The controller design was awful for the N64, by the way. Games weren't fun to play on there because you had a weird controller. Nobody can decide how to play that game. If you're a hardcore gamer, you knew. But as a casual fan, which you need to sell these systems, having that controller was really weird. People would hold the two sticks on the side instead of holding the middle joystick, which, I mean, why wouldn't you? That's how games were always played up to that point. It was weird. It was really weird. Now we'll go back to the lack of games library. There's only 355. Now, can you believe that? 355 for a big Nintendo console. What the hell is that? It makes no sense. PS1 managed to get 1,100 games on their system. It was just unusual. 355. So now you got to think of some of those are quality titles. Yes, like you got your Super Mario 64s, your GoldenEyes, your Ocarina of Times, your Conqueror's Bad Fur Days, all those. But how many of that is shovelware? A lot of you see that on consoles these days. You saw it with the Wii. You still see it on the PS Store on the Xbox One before they started being regulated, of course. Of course, Nintendo was known for making their games or for making money off big RPG franchises, which they were lacking so many of on this system. The SNES, one of the greatest RPG systems of all times, with great games like Chrono Trigger. I was almost at Chrono Cross, and Final Fantasy VI being some of the names. Earthbound also. But of course, where were they? I mean, if you count Ocarina of Time, not turn-based RPG like people wanted at the time. It was a different breed. There was no really great. There was Paper Mario, of course, but there weren't really any of those big titles like Wild Arms, Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. All were on PlayStation exclusives because the Nintendo 64 couldn't handle the requirement they needed. If you ask anybody to name 10 N64 games without naming those ones I just named, how many people would actually be able to do it? Not many, because that's all people played on these systems. Nostalgia is, like I said, is N64's best friend. And I gotta say that. I'm sorry to everybody who loved it. It really was. Now, those were my thoughts about the N64. Now, if you have any comments, concerns about what I just said, please let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, of course, at Mig_AZ, and listen to Podcast Equipped, which comes to you every Thursday on this channel, Equipped Gaming. Yeah, that's all I got to say for you now, Internet. Don't hate me for hating this system. I don't hate the system, I guess. But don't be mean to me for it. I love the system. It has great games, just not enough for me at the time. And I still think over time people will see that the N64 was not as great of a system as it was because we were kids at the time. You know what I mean? Anyways, have a great one, Internet. We'll see you next week for next week's Discuss Play. Come back for more.